Greetings, everybody. Here are Daf Yomi and Riff. He's already penetrated the second parak of Brachos. So we're on Daf Ches, page 8, in Riff pages. We're actually starting from 2 lines from the bottom on 7b in the Riff pages on Zainal Bays. Fine. So it says like this. Amar Rav, said Rav, anyone who greets his friend, it's talking about before chakras, right? You go out, and you, we're going to say, right, we're going to qualify this. Doesn't mean you have to be anti-social. We're going to qualify this, right? But if you go and go to greet a friend before you dive in chakras, kilo so bama. Right, it's as if you have made him a altar. Right, as if he's you've made a bum as an altar that's prohibited to sacrifice on. So it's like worshiping. It's a just like we cannot sacrifice on a bumma because it denigrates the mizbeach that we're supposed to sacrifice on, the Mizbech and the Beis HaMikdash. Also, even though you're supposed to be sociable and this and that, but not before you pay your respects to Hashem first. And so you make him like a bummer. It's like a forbidden sacrifice, a forbidden offering. As the pasuk says, stop with the people, right? Right, still, don't get involved with the people that have neshama in their nostrils, meaning they're of mortal life. Keep a makshuv, because what is he worth? Meaning the context of the pasuk is to only depend on Hashem, but the Gemara is saying interesting drasha. Keep a man. What is he important? But really to not bameh as what, but bama as a platform. Keep bama nechshavhu. Right, you are considering him like a pedestal, as which we're not allowed to sacrifice on. Out to create bameh elabama. Right, don't call him. As I explained. Right, don't say with what is he important, but rather don't read it as bameh as what, but rather bama, the pedestal, the platform that is prohibited to use. Right. Now, as the Gemara qualifies itself, right? That's talking about that you before chakras, before you daven first thing in the morning, you went to this guy's house, right, to greet him and say hello to him, right? Instead of going to shul, you should have gone to this guy's house before you went to shul. I should have davened, gone to shul daven, and if you can't go to shul, daven first, and then go out and greet a guy. But if you do not actually go, that first thing too is like you meet a guy in the street, right? You don't have to be antisocial. So of course you walk into shul, you're on your way to daven, you meet a guy, of course you're allowed to greet him, right? It's b'mashkim the as a word as a word dissing Hashem in favor of giving respect to a person. That's only if you are going to go to this guy first before you go to shul. But if you bump into a guy, that's not a problem, right? Ditran, and the Gemara brings a further raya from to this principle, the principle that it is permitted if you bump into the guy, right? Because we're talking about you should not greet a guy before tefillah. What's tefillah? Shmoneh Esrei. So now, didn't we just learn the time as we learned in the Mishnah that we just learned yesterday? Right, between the Shema and Vayim Shema, for example, in the breaks, between the paragraphs or between the blessings, right? You're even allowed to initiate and say and greet anyone you must honor, and you could certainly reply to anybody. So you see, you're before Shmoneh Esrei, right? You're in the between paragraphs of Shema, right? So you could still greet a guy. So it's talking about, so of course, the prohibition of greeting someone before Shmoneh Esrei is obviously that you go out of your way, you go to him before you daven. Another halacha, very important, said Rav Yitzchak, the son of Ashian, it is prohibited to go traveling before you daven, right? Just talk about that chakras. First thing in the morning, you daven, then go. Now, right, so everyone understands that is talking about that it's possible to daven, right? Right, we're talking if you leave in the dead at night, 3 a.m. before the crack of dawn, right? Then it's it's just not chakras time yet, so you're not doing anything wrong, right? But of course, that's Gemara says elsewhere, like in Pesachim, that's stam not recommended. Don't travel in the dead of night. Okay, but if you have to, you have to. So about that, if it's already the time today you could daven, right? You should daven first, and only then go on your way. And we learned earlier that when we must travel, so we allow daven at the earliest possible time. So you ask your local Orthodox rabbi, but it seems to me that that if it is you have to travel, and it's and we would permit you to travel to daven at that time. It's within the it's after dawn, and we would permit travelers to say Shema and to daven. That's probably what you should do. Again, you ask your local Orthodox rabbi. The only reason to say otherwise is that that you're going to reach a place where you could daven, at the proper time, like after Shmona Esrei, right after Nets, or with greater concentration. But the question is, how sure are you? Again, this is a question to ask your local Orthodox rabbi. But the literal halacha over here is, once it's possible to daven, you should not go out traveling, for whatever trip you have to take prior to davening. As the Pasuk said in front of Yahalech, justice before you go, and then you plot such a course for your footsteps. So tzedek lefanav, right? Justice before you go out, and you chart your course, chart the course of your footsteps, right? So that justice, that's before. That you have to set before you. That justice that you have to set before you is your davening. Right? Right, as Rashi explains, your tefillah is, makes you just in front of, in the face of God. Right, so to put justice, you are a just person if you pray first, and that's before you chart your course. Right? So now on the upside, Seravini Baravin, anyone who davens and only after he davens, like he's supposed to, goes out on the road, right? HaKadosh will actually do whatever you seek, meaning you'll have success. And he says, so you say to read the pasuk not just as a requirement, but also, as a promise. Shanem, the same pasuk, put justice before you, and then go, go in the direction, that you want. Meaning, the pasuk is actually promising not just that you may, but you will be successful in your endeavor that you set out to do. All right, so now we're at the next Mishnah. It is in the page Ches, page 8a in the Rif pages. Eluhem ben Brachos. Now let's now specify what is called to be between the paragraphs, where it's permitted to greet one that you must honor, and you may reply with greetings to anybody who greets you. What are those breaks? This is called between the chapters. Between the first bracha and the second bracha. So in the morning there will be between Yotzer Amoros and before you start Avarabba. I'm speaking. I'm an Ashkenaz. I know by the Sfardim, as we learned here, if it's Ava Solam, right? So between Yotzer Amoros and Ava, that's one break. Ben Shnia Lishma. And after Abocher Mo Yisrael Ba'ahava, and between that and actually starting the Shema is also a break, right? Ben Shema Levayim Shema, and between Shema and Vahaya im Shamoa is also a break. So that's Ben Vayomer leemes v'yatz. Now between Vayom Shamoa and Vayomer is also a break. So it might be right. That before you start Vayor Shem Moshe Leim or Davres of Raslam Tzitzis, between those two is also a break. And then, the Tanakama, the first Mishnah, ends off and also Hashem Elokim Hashem Elokeichem Emet. Actually he understands you should the Tanakama is that you say the way it's written in the Torah scroll. Ani Hashem Elokim, period. And then Emes V'Yatim L'Chaim V'Yoshar, is the next bracha, that is the bracha that comes after Shema, or Emes V'Emuna at night, right? So Rabbi Yehuda Ben but Rabbi Yehuda is of the opinion. I do believe we ask in this way, right? Is that between Vayomer and Emes V'Yatim we should not make a break. We should go straight from finishing the third parsha of Shema into that next bracha that follows Shema. And that's, the Chazan says, Hashem Elokeichem Emes. He immediately combines the end of the pasuk of Shema with the first word of the next bracha without any break in between. And that's the way we should finish off Shema. We should finish off Shema, already saying the first word of the next bracha. And the Gemara is going to explain that because that also sounds like another famous pasuk in Yirmiyahu, and so Chazal wanted us to encoded that pasuk there also. So they set up their bracha starting with Emes, knowing that word would be said immediately following the conclusion of the third part Shema, and it would ring like a pasuk in Yirmiyahu. Hashem Elokeichem Emes rings like Hashem Elokim Emes. They meant for that, to encode that pasuk also in the prayer, and that's why you may not make a break there. You have to go straight from the end of the parsha to the first word of that bracha that starts the third bracha of Kriya Shema. Right? Amar Rabbi Avo, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. So Rabbi Avo said the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Halacha Rabbi Yehuda, like Rabbi Yehuda, like we just said. That between the third parsha and Emes V'Yatim we don't make a break. We have Hashem Elokeichem Emes, right? Don't make a break. Combine the two, right? My time, V'Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Avo, Rabbi Yochanan. My time, Rabbi Yehuda. Now the same Rabbi Avo, named Rabbi Yochanan, explained what is the reason for Rabbi Yehuda. It is like I explained a minute ago, because it is to parallel the pasuk. Hashem Elokim Emes. Hashem is the Lord of truth. Hashem Elokeichem Emes. Make it ring like that pasuk in Yirmiyahu. So Chosra Omes, Chosra Omes. So now, do you say Hashem Elokim Emes, Hashem Elokeichem Emes, or and then you'll say Emes V'Yatim, or you don't say Emes twice? Do you say Emes twice, or you don't say Emes twice? So because we say we want to combine the word Emes with the that word with the conclusion of the third parsha of Shema, so you'll say Emes and then you'll say again Emes Yatzon Kavsha or Ani Hashem Elokeichem Emes and then Yatzon Kavsha Yoshar. We're going to say Emes twice, one to append to the pasuk, the last pasuk of Shema of that third parsha of Shema, or no, it's going to be the same word Emes. It'll be for both. It should be associated with the Shema. And it should also be associated with the bracha that we're continuing. Rabbi Yochanan is of the opinion say, Ani Hashem Elokeichem Emes, and then Emes Yatzon Yoshar. That's how Rabbi Yochanan holds. Rava said, no, we don't. It's the same Emes for both. Ani Hashem Elokeichem Emes, and then when the Chazan catches up and announces that he's gotten up there, you continue. You will not repeat the word Emes again. The same word Emes of that Chazal, the same one word Emes that Chazal right? In the in the in the bracha, is it that same one word should be for both. Okay, that's the opinion of Rava. Rava, the Rif Paskin categorically like Rava. I don't know. I have done like the Rif, and I do believe that's the custom. Like Rava as the Rif Paskin, right? Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha. So with the next Mishnah says Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha. Lama Kadma Shema. Right? Why is this that we put? Why is it that was worked out that Shema is before Vayim Shema? Let me explain a little bit of background over here. That the way that Chazal lined up the three parshas of Shema is not the way they are in the Torah. They're not written that way in the Torah in that succession. I mean, obviously, every paragraph, like we learned, that paragraph is written in the Torah that way. But the arrangement of the three different paragraphs of Shema is not arranged in the Torah in succession like they are in the Siddur, right? The Shema is in Parshas Vayetschan. Vayam Shema, after plenty of text in between, Vayam Shema is in the next parsha, Parshas Ekev. But Vayomer, the third parsha, is way before the first two, back in Parshas Shlach in Sefer Bamidbar. So of course, like we learned earlier, we have to keep the paragraphs intact as they are written in the Torah. But these paragraphs are not, the succession, the order of the paragraphs. Paragraphs must be kept intact, but the order of the paragraphs, Chazal set up for us, right? That's not the way they're written in the Torah. They're not written next to each other in the Torah. They're scattered, and now they're scattered. But what we read last actually comes first in the Torah. A whole Sefer earlier in Sefer Bamidbar, right? So Rabbi Shua ben saying, why did Chazal line it up for us this way? Which, by the way, therefore, it's important to know that if a person got mixed up, said Vayam Shema and Vayomer, and said Shrek, I missed Shema, that's not a problem, right? We're talking about why they arranged this order, but this order is not ma'akev. So there's a great reason, as we're about to explain, why Chazal put this in this philosophical order, right? But since we know that this order is, for lack of legislated, it's not the way they were written in the Torah. So you see that by biblical law, right, the order is not ma'akev, right? So if you said these three chapters, I don't really have to keep the integrity of each chapter. Each paragraph has to be said as it's written in the Torah. But you could say Vayomer before Shema or Vayam Shema before Shema if you got mixed up. But there is a reason. There's a method to why Chazal gave it to us in the order that we have it as it's printed in the Siddur. They have Shema before Vayim Shema, right? So why do you have Shema before Vayim Shema? Because in Shema we accept upon ourselves the yoke of heaven. Hashem is one; He's the one and only King. That's called Malchus Shemayim, right? Then Vayim Shema Israel El Mitzvot side to accept the yoke of performing the mitzvahs. First, you have to accept God as King before you accept, to do His mitzvahs. Accepting Him as being King is the foundation. Okay, so that's why you have Shema before and Shema. Vayim Shema, the Vayomer. Now, why do you have Vayim Shema before Vayomer, which we said happens to have been written in the Torah, much earlier than either of these two parshas? Because Vayim Shema talks about all the mitzvahs without any specification, so it's all the mitzvahs that apply by day and by night. In Vayomer, we talk about tzitzis in particular. So tzitzis in particular, we only wear tzitzis by day, not by night. No, but which, by the way, is a famous maseches, the Rambam and the Rosh. Whether that means that at night you don't have to wear tzitzis even on any foreign garment, or the Rosh says no, it goes by day clothes and night clothes. It doesn't go by time. It doesn't mean it goes by a night clothing. It doesn't have to wear tzitzis like pajamas, but day clothing worn by night, like you're a night watchman and you're wearing day clothes by night. You work at night, so you have to put tzitzis. is a famous machlokas, the Rambam and the Rosh, and I do believe we take on the stringencies of both opinions, right? But either way, you see, since this is somehow limited to day and not by night, in one manner or the other, machlokas, the Rambam and the Rosh, and whereas Vav Shmo is all the mitzvahs all the time, so that's why Vav Shmo should come first. Right? Omar Ula. So said Ula, we're in the Gemara now. If you read Kriya Shema, of course, talking about in the morning when you should be wearing tefillin. If you read Kriya Shema without tefillin, it's like you're giving like false testimony, right? Because it's the the tefillin shows that we are accept Hashem as our king. We tie ourselves to Him. So you're saying Shema without tefillin. It's like, hey, that's like false. You don't mean what you say. That's what it means, false testimony. Because if you were serious about what you said, that Hashem is your king, you would adorn yourself with tefillin that shows how we're tied and subjugate our actions and our heart and our minds to Hashem. So it looks like you're insincere in what you're saying if you're saying Shema without tefillin when you could be wearing tefillin. That's all right. Let's go on. Rabbi Chia Barabar below mincha. No, it's like he gives a different metaphor. It's as if you're sacrificing a korban toda without the nesachim, the sacraments have to accompany it, right? Or you're bringing you're bringing Torah without the mincha, with the flour offering that's supposed to accompany it, or you're giving a sacrifice without the sacraments that are supposed to accompany it. You didn't finish. You didn't finish the mitzvah. It's incomplete. Now, many already the Rishonim. It's not the Hasidim that made this up. It's already in Rishonim that say that there is a difference between these two views. Right? The first view says you screwed up. You said Shema without tefillin. There's no makeup. But like the second opinion, it's incomplete to say Shema without tefillin. You can make it up, right? You could, like, if you brought the zevach without nesachim, you can make up and bring the nesachim later. So if you didn't do it exactly the same time, you still have, whatever time you have to still make it up. And from that comes the custom. It's based on this second way that if you see that you're about to miss the time of Shema, sadly, it happens to me all too often, right? To quickly say Shema before the time expires without tefillin, and then you say Shema again with tefillin, hopefully in course of your chakras that you hopefully do, of course, of Zman Tefillah. But there's even a custom for people to put on tefillin and say Shema later in the day if they didn't have tefillin, right, earlier in the day. Because like second opinion, the mitzvah is incomplete, and you can complete it afterwards. Right? So okay, but these are all questions for your local Orthodox rabbi. Okay. Rabbi Yochanan said, Harotzu Kabbalah Machal Shemaim Shlema. Person wants to accept upon himself the yoke of the kingdom of heaven in a complete way. Do it right. Yifneh. First of all, talk about in the morning, right? First thing, go to the bathroom. Get all your impurities out. As the Sfarim and Farshim explain, the impurities in the body represent impurities also. You're getting rid of all your impurities. There's a side effect that we're not allowed to daven. We're going to learn in the third chapter of Brachos. Not allowed to daven with a stomach full of impurities. If you need to go to the bathroom, get it over with, and then daven. And we'll talk about the details later. So, but aside from, the legal requirement, there's also a philosophical significance. So, aside from that, don't be disgusting with all that impurity inside of you, which would say even make you prohibited to daven. But it's also, symbolically, when you get rid of those impurities that you may not daven with either, it has spiritual significance. That's an act of purification, getting rid of your impurities. And then you wash your hands. You do netilas yadayim afterwards, meaning if you did netilas yadayim when you first woke up, you must do proper netilas yadayim again afterwards, because that is the reason why they instituted netilas yadayim in the morning. It's really for chakras. So it's a dual purpose, right? To get off the impure spirit, but it's also to purify yourself before you go into davening. And of course, so even though we're not saying about going to the mikveh, which we're going to learn in the third parak, that's only if you really have to, which in this day and age doesn't apply because they uprooted the need to go to the mikveh before davening. But still, there's a minimal purification of at least the hands should be properly clean. So in the form of Ishbita, it says, because your hands, is negias, bias, So in we say to be biased is nogea badover. I'm touching it, I have my hand in something, and hand in something means bias. So washing the hands, ergo, like we say even in our lives, I wash my hands of you. I wash, it's like no bias. You're approaching Hashem with no bias, right? And then you follow through and you put on tefillin after the course Kriyashma, and you read Krishma with spalo, and then you daven Zuhi Malchus Shamayim Shlema. Right? This is called to accept the yoke of heaven in complete, right? So this should give we should invest thought in this, right? Doing it, not do it by rote, going to the bathroom, washing the hands, putting on, adorning ourselves, and with that saying Shema and Tefillah. That's called to accept the yoke of heaven completely. And then he goes on to say that anyone who actually does this also, it's as if you built a proper altar that you're allowed to sacrifice on, and you did indeed sacrifice. I wash with cleanliness my hands. And I surround your Mizbeach Hashem. So that shows that, if you, to get a little bit, explain a drop more, of course, there's explain this, and explain this more and more and more, and see more and more in this, right? But the idea being, right, that, if you want your tefillah to count like a korban, which in this day and age we must, because we don't have korbanos. Right, so the extra purification that you do, right, of making sure you're clean, and I guess so. He puts possible on the cleanliness of hands, but the cleanliness of hands is not the exclusion, but rather on top of the more basic requirement of cleanliness of the body and getting all the impurities out. So the purity that you put into davening is what can make that davening not just like a request before Hashem that we're obligated to do, but that purity can amplify the power of prayer to be like a real sacrifice. Right? Chazi ma'utzum rabban da'asuri ma'arava v'amar mishen l'mayim lito yikach tzor v'tzor b'afar b'tzamim. Right? So one of the rabbis, told Rava, did you see that guy, right? That Talmud Chacham that came from the west, which refers to Eretz Yisrael, who said a halacha. It's very important to know that someone who does not have waters to wash his hands, for davening, God forbid it could happen. It's like we learned about all the, how great it is. It's called to be accepting of the Malchus Shemaim completely. It's called that your tefillah is now like a sacrifice. But that's all if you have water. What if you don't have water? So I said, well, at least, you could still daven, and you should like rub your hands, with a rock, or with dust, with dirt, or with even little sticks, just wipe the hands. That wiping, a intense wiping of the hands, is also an act of cleanliness that will at least give you the right to pray. Right? So Amalei Shapi Ka'amar. Right? He said, so Rava says, I agree with it that you put your hands on anything, on a rock, on earth, on little sticks. I agree with him totally. Mixip my monkey. Right? Doesn't say the pasuk, I will have it doesn't say, and I will have wash my hands with water, and I will surround your Mizbeach Hashem. No, it just says I will wash with cleanliness. Didn't specify water. So anything that makes your hands a little bit cleaner could substitute for water if you don't have water, right? So, but obviously water is better, but if you don't have water, right, you may daven, and if it's really you don't have any water, you don't even have to feel bad about it. Your tefillah will be fully accepted. Just clean your hands as best as you can without water. And now we're going to learn how how to prioritize. There's a dilemma. I could daven now without water, and or I should wait and get water, or travel and get water. Okay, and that's the next thing. And Gemara says, "Like Chizaman the mother Amaya bin Tlusa, Rabbi Chizda cursed." That's what it says here. Someone who actually would delay davening because he was seeking water at the time of davening. But the Gemara qualifies. I'm the Krishma, right? This is talking about for Kriya Shema. The Kriya Shema, we know is up to 3 hours, right? Right. So you're dangerous, especially if you didn't wake up so early, right? We're talking about the so Kriya Shema may pass. Al Tefillah Ba'ila Adorei, but for Tefillah we have an extra 1 hour, which, as we learned, really means according to the Rambam and the mainstream thinking in halacha, that means an extra 1/12 of the day, of the daylight hours. So which could be, the hour could be more than 60 minutes in the summer, less than 60 minutes in the winter, like it is now. So, but for tefillah, we have that extra hour, extra 12th of the day. Boy, la dure, you do have to look for water. So you see, it's a question like for Kriya Shema, don't look for water, right? Don't look for water if the time Kriya Shema is now. You may not find the water in time. So rub the hands in anything that cleans them and say the Shema. But for the Shemona Esrei, yes, you should look for water. But okay, there's criteria, right? Varkama ad parsa. So how much how much should you go and travel for for water? Parsa. Now parsa is it's quite a I can't tell you how much, but I say it's a substantial it's quite a walk, and I apologize for not looking up in how much a parsa is in today's times. Of course, by them, let me just tell you one general principle. I can't tell you exactly how much this is. Obviously, it's not talking about that the parsa that just talking about if you could go that parsa, and still not miss Sosman Tefillah. That much I tell you. And another I can tell you is that's talking about on foot. And now in this day and age, we go by car, so we convert it into time. The amount of time that it takes to walk, that's the amount of time you would have to drive, right? Let's say like this: if some people are stringent to say it's a time factor, right? Not a distance factor. It goes by the time it would take you to walk. That's the amount of time you would have to drive. The time it takes you to walk a parsa is the time you'd have to drive. But some take a more lenient opinion and say, no, it's a distance. So the amount of distance that it takes to walk a parsa, if geographically that's the type of area that we covered by car in 2 minutes, all right, so it's only within 2 minutes. Any further than that, you don't have to go, even though it only take you 2.5 minutes. Right? So now let me give you an example. And there's again a question for your local Orthodox rabbi. By Birkas Hagoma, where I do believe, for the amount of time that it takes to, memory serves me, I think it's the same amount of time of parts of it. I can't for sure, not holding the sugya, but I'm just saying this to illustrate. So the Gemara says a amount of time, that this amount of time on sea or in any hazardous condition like walking through a desert, this is the amount of time. After this amount of time, you have to make Birkas Hagoma. Right? Okay, so now we have a dilemma whether that means that amount of space or that amount of time. So now Suffolk Brachos lahakel, by Brachos we want to take the more lenient opinion, right? And not obligate you in a bracha until all criteria is met. So we say, go with the time factor, even though since you're going by either train or plane, car. You'll have covered much more area, but we don't. The Chazal meant the time that it takes. It's a time factor, or it's a space. It's a geographical space factor. So so by Birkas Agoma, we take the stringency of both and make it a time factor. If you're not going on foot, so we say the same amount of time would take you to walk that amount. Okay, so over here you'd have to ask your local Orthodox rabbi for what it means for tefillah, whether it's geographical or it's time-wise, right? But it's the amount of time it takes to walk a parsa, or is it the space of parsa? Even though in a car you could do that very quick, right? But nonetheless, either way, Hani Bili Kameh, that would say up to a parsa, which it's a substantial walk, but it's not a substantial car ride whatsoever. That you have to go a parsa to get water for tefillah, not for Krishma, because you have that extra time. Hani Bili Kameh, it's only if it's on your way. It's it's in the same direction of where you're traveling, right? But to go backwards, right? If you have to, like actually to find water, you'll have to backtrack against the direction in which you're traveling, right? In the motel, if it's parsa that, as far as direction you're going. But if you have to go backwards away from your destination, I feel meal there, right? Right, you don't even go back a meal, which I guess is a third of the parsa, if I recall correctly, something like that. Ask your local Orthodox rabbi and ask him whether it goes by geographical space or if it goes by the time factor it takes to walk a meal. Even a meal, you don't go back. It's like approximately like one third of that time, right? I believe, right? Don't call me that, double check me, right? But says the Rif, right? I do believe there's the Rif talking, right? Okay, so you don't go back a meal, less than a meal you do. So to go back, so it's roughly on. If you're in the direction of where you're traveling anyway, you have to go a parsa, right? In the direction of, if to find water, nearest water is to backtrack. Chazal did not obligate you to backtrack unless it's like it's a fraction of the parts that we're talking about. I believe it's like one third. And it's like I say, in a car, this is like very, very little time to drive. But then the question is whether it's space or it's the amount of time it would take to walk. So that's the amount of time you have to spend. Big question for your local Orthodox rabbi. Okay. So now we're by the next Mishnah. Let's say you said the Shema, but you said it so softly. But we're talking about you really said it. You really said it, but it was so soft even your own ears couldn't hear it. Yotza, you still fulfill the obligation to Rabbi Yehuda, but these are the words of Rabbi Yehuda. That's his opinion. Rabbi Yosamer lo Yotza. Rabbi said, no, you're not Yotze. It's not called you properly said it unless you actually heard it. Right? But now how about this? You read it, but you didn't read it exactly. You mispronounced the words. Right? So you said the words approximately, but you're not, the words were not properly pronounced. Not to the point that you said actually different words, but you mispronounced the words. It's not exactly as it's written with the vowels, So Rabbi Yossi says you still fulfill your obligation. If you remember lo yatsa, right? Rabbi says, Rabbi says you do fulfill your obligation. Rabbi says you did not fulfill your obligation. But this we had already. If you read read it out of sequence, you read one pasuk within the paragraph. Within the paragraph, as it's written in the Torah, you inverted the order of the psukim, you're not yotze. You have to keep the order of the paragraph as that paragraph is written in the Torah. You read, Shema, and you made a mistake. Where do you go back to? You go back to the place where you made the mistake and you say it over from that point onwards. So let's say you're reading 10 psukim as an example. Right? You made a mistake in the 5th pasuk, and then you kept on reading. And you read, that pasuk, I read it wrong. You go back to that pasuk that you read wrong, and you have to, from that point onwards, continue reading. because as we said, you can't read it out of order. Just say, I'll just read over the pasuk I said wrongly. No. You go back to the pasuk, and you have to keep the order. So you have to go back and say all the psukim all over again. Go back to the place where you made the mistake, correct the mistake, and read all the psukim from that point onwards all over again. All right? Amar Rav Yosef Machlokas Krishna Shar Mitzvahs Divrei Hakol Yatsa the Tanya Loi Bracha Bekas was Liba Vin Bir Yatsa. So said Rav Yosef, and the Rif seems to pass in that way because this is the only opinion he brings. Right, the Machlokas Rav Yehuda and Rav Yosef or Rav Yossi was whether you have to actually hear what you're saying is only by Kriya Shema. By other mitzvahs of speech, even Rav Yossi would admit to Rav Yehuda, right, that you don't have to hear what you're saying, right? Because and he would bring a brisa that from benching, the grace after meals. That's another mitzvah you have to say, right? Do not bench just in your heart. You have to say the words. But in birach yotze, but if you actually bench in your heart, you yotze, right? So you see from benching there, machlokas was dafka by shema. Right, onwards. Now, if you read the Shema, but you weren't exacting in the letters, Rabbi Yossi said before. Rabbi Yossi says, if you weren't exacting in the words, on the letters, right? You mispronounced some of the words because you weren't exacting in the letters. You're still Yotze. Rabbi Romer, lo Yotze. You do not fulfill your obligation. Rabbi Yoshi, Allah k'divrei shneim lo hakel. Right. So now Rav Yoshia says, we're gonna take the lenient side of both of them. That that first of all, Shema, will take the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. That if you did not hear what you said, right, you're still fulfill your obligation. We look to go say Yotza, and also we'll take a lenient opinion of Rabbi Yossi that we're not exacting with the letters of the words, so the words were mispronounced. You also fulfill your obligation. Dafka Didiev, but the Rif qualifies and says this is only if it happened already. But of course, the chatchil should do the you should take on the stringencies of both. Obviously, the way to do it in a primary basis, you should intend to do the stringencies of both. Hear what you're saying and also be very exacting. There's only if it happened already that we say you filled your obligation, you don't have to go back. Tony Rav Ovadia Kamed Rav Ovadia learned in front of Rava and said, he said it, quoted a chazal in front of Rava, right? Vilimadetem, we could read it as an acronym. Vilimadetam, right? It should be a wholesome learning. Wholesome learning. Put space between letters that could easily slur into each other. Right? Ani Rava Basay. So Rava immediately answered after Rav Vadia said that to give examples. To go on B'chol Levavcha. Right? If you say B'chol Levavcha quickly, the last lamed of B'chol and the first lamed of Levavcha could blend into one letter. B'chol Levavcha. Right? You have to be careful when one word ends with the same letter the next word begins. You pause so the letters you don't combine them into a single letter. Yeah. Like B'chol Levavcha or Al Levavcha, right? B'chol Levavchem. Esev Besodcha. Esev, enter with the base, and Besodcha. Vavadetem Mehera. Al Levavchem. HaKanaf Tzil. Also Uzchartem, right? They're both with the end of the Vav and start the one. Tizkaru Va'asisem, right? All these examples where the one word ends with the same letter next word begins. Be careful not to slur and make it one letter for both, combining it into one long nonsensical word. Stop to split it up. All right, so it should hear both words, onto their own. Yerushalmi. So now the Rif brings another Yerushalmi in connection to this. Reb Levi, Rabbi Avol, ben Haifa, B'Shem of Sisi. Reb Levi and Rabbi Avol from Haifa, said the name of Rabbi Sisi. Right, you have to like the Zion of Laman Tizkuru in order you should remember. Right, there's no just as as Mepharsh explained, they would say in order you should remember as opposed because if you don't emphasize the Zion Laman Tiskuru in order that you should demand reward from Hashem. And no, God forbid, we do the mitzvahs not for the sake of reward. We do the mitzvahs because it's the right thing to do. We get rewarded, right? But we do it because the right thing. So you have to like emphasize. No one should hear it wrong. Tiskaru, that would be as in order that you should get paid. No. So tiskaru in order you should remember, as which is what the pasuk means. Is ki leolam chasto. Right, so Rabbi name Chizal said, this is also a common mistake people make. Ki leolam chasto, right? Emphasize the samech chesed, right? Kindness. Forever is his kindness. Some people really do indeed slur and say chazdo, and that's right. It should not, should not sound like anything but what the Torah intended it to mean. Right. Consider Perek Mokum Shinagu. Right. So now we bringing now from a I believe there's a Gemara in Psachim. The Rif is bringing. Right. Right. That first of all Shema they used to sandwich together. Right. So now what does that mean? So Rashi explained Lagigim loyu mafsiki ben echo leven v'hafta tzarich larich bekre la'afsik ben kabolas omachut shamayim l'dvarim acherim toso iloshon tzavot. Right, so first of all, they used to go straight into Hashem echad v'hafta es Hashem elokecha. Right, so they used to sandwich it together. Right, and so Rashi explains that they didn't stop, they didn't make a break between Hashem echad. Now we make a break anyway because we insert Baruch Shem Kod Malchut Lamed. So they went straight from Echad to V'afta Shel Kecha without any break, as if it's all in long sense, and that's not correct, right? Because the first pasuk is the acceptance of the yoke of heaven, and then the next pasuk is a commandment, V'afta Shem Kecha, and we learned before in the spirit of why the whole Parsha Shema is before Vayim Shema. In the same spirit, you should delineate. You should. Shema, the first pasuk, which is to accept the yoke of heaven, which we add the pasuk of Baruch Shem, as per this week's parsha. Right? We maybe I'll speak about that later tonight. Right? So we add that pasuk of Baruch Shem. But they didn't go. They went straight from Echad to V'hafta, and it's not. You should in the same spirit of accepting the yoke of heaven first, and then accepting mitzvahs. V'hafta, love Hashem and God is a mitzvah. The command. So first, yes, they should have. So that's one. This they're being criticized for having right together. So how did they do this? Right. So that's so Rashi explained it like Rav Yehuda used to say Hashem Hakenu Hashem Echad and not stop without even taking a breath, going after the Shezol Kecha, combining. We're supposed to separate the accept the yoke of heaven from the obligation to obey the mitzvahs. Rava said no, they did something else wrong. That the sandwiching that it's referred to is is actually in where they put the punctuation. So we said earlier you have to be careful. Al levavacha. Right, but they used to, which they were careful. It seems they were careful about that. But the problem is, the Pasuk says, "Hayom, I command you today, I'll live of it." Right, so I command you today that the Torah should always be al vacha, but he's to break up the pasuk, right, to put the comma, as it were, in the pasuk, "Shanochi mitzavcha." Right, Hayom al vacha, today on your heart, meaning only today on your heart. It's only for today, not for tomorrow, the day after, right? So he used to sandwich the word hayom with alav avecha, as opposed to sandwiching the word with mitzavcha, with I command you. I command you today, Torah should always be on your heart. Right? No, they should say, I command you that today, Torah is in today only and not tomorrow or the day after. That was what they did wrong. Tanu Rabbanon, the Rabbanon learned, it's a Korkim Shema. Right? Well, what is it called to sandwich Shema? Right? So Rabbi Meir, Gorka Shema, Omer Shema, Veloy Mafsikin. They say Shema and go straight into Vahafta without a break. If Rabbi Meir. Right, that's the words of Rabbi Meir. That's what the people of Yericho did. Rabbi Yehuda says, but no, they used to make a little break, I mean, take a breath, Hashem, okay, Hashem Echad, and then say V'Hafta. But right, but they didn't say Baruch Shem Kod Malchus. They didn't do like we do. We say Baruch, that we insert a pasuk that's not written in the Torah. It's not written in the Torah at all. We insert a pasuk that's not written in the Torah of Baruch Shem Kod Malchus between Hashem Echad and V'Hafta. So now the question is, where did that come from? It came from this week's parsha. This week's parsha, Parshas Vayechi. Out of my time, what's the reason that we say it? It's like Rishon ben Pazi says. Drush on this week's parsha, Parshas Vayechi, Mamish, this week's parsha, Sashavua. Right? Reiko Yaakov. So Yaakov called his kids, Ruba Choriata. Right? He started saying it, but he wanted to say it. The says, I will tell you what's going to be at the end of days, and then so he just starts giving blessings. He didn't tell them what happens at the end of days. So this Gemara is actually brought in Rashi right there in the Chumash. Right? Because Yaakov does one of this right? Yaakov wanted to reveal the end of days to his sons. Right? Right? To tell them what will be at the end of days, reveal the future to them. But the Shechina, the divine presence that gave him that prophecy, left him. Amar Shema Yesh Mitasi Psul, Kavram Visha, Abli Abba Shasir Shmo, Yitzchakavish, Yatsi Beno. So maybe there's, I have some kids of mine that aren't good. Look, my grandfather Avram had Yishmael. He had a rotten kid, right? For lack of a better word, not qualify Yishmael as rotten or not, it's an expression. And then Yitzchak had a rotten kid, again, just, using rotten as an expression, right? He had Esau. So maybe one of my kids that are surrounded by is not a good Jew, and that's why the divine presence is not resting here. Right? All right. Amrulo, so I guess it's unwritten over here, but I guess he voiced his concerns to his kids. So they told them, Shema, so listen, Yisrael, which is Yaakov. Yaakov's name was Yisrael. Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem, our Lord, Hashem's one. Just like you only have one God in your heart. So also there's only one God in ours. So Shema, Yisrael. And there are people, there's a midrash that say that this is also to have in mind when we say Shema in this day and age. Listen, Israel, not just the nation of Israel, but also listen, Israel, Yaakov Vinu, who is laying in Mara Samachela, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, Hashem our Lord, Hashem is one. Just like by you to you, there's only one God. Also to us, there's only one God, right? Only one God in our heart. And at that moment, Yaakov heard them say Shema. He responded. Yaakov responded, Baruch Shem Kvod Malchus Oved, blessed be the name of his glorious majesty forever and ever. Right? Right. So the rabbi said, how should we do this? Name Moshe. Should we say Baruch Shem? Well, Moshe didn't say Baruch Shem. In the Torah, Shema Yisrael Hashem Echad, the way it goes straight into V'Ahavta. Baruch Shem, that pasuk in between the two, is not written in the Torah. It's Yaakov invented it. Moshe did not write the parasha of Shema that way. So, do we say it? Well, we feel bad because Moshe didn't say it. Right? Lo Nemre, we should not say it. Amre Yaakov said it. So to make a compromise, as it were, they instituted it should be said quietly. I decide I'm going to speak on this Gemara tonight. In the Mishmar Maimer. Okay? It's Thursday night, the 9th of January. You figure out what that is in Teves. tune in tonight at the Mishmar Mimer at going to be at, I'm going to call it for 10:30. Okay. All right. So the compromise is to say it but quietly. Oh, so the question remains: so why do we say it out loud on Yom Kippur? Right? We'll have to deal with that. Right? We are going to deal with that. Right? It's the Rabbi Ami, much of Bas Shricha Tzikek there, Rav Yitzchak from the yeshiva of Rabbi Ami said, right? Much of Bas Shricha Tzikek, a princess smelled like tzikek there's like the pieces they used to take like a clumps of flour to absorb the grease. I remember the yeshiva, they gave us a very greasy pizza. We used to like take paper towels to absorb the grease from on top of the pizza. Really floating in oil. I don't know why. All right. So, anyways, so there they say have paper towels to absorb the grease on top of a dish if there's some grease floating on top. So, they used to use flour. Put some flour in and then scrape it off. Thing is that the flour, if it was a flavorful dish, the flour would absorb that. The scent of the dish, the flour absorbing the grease would also, be flavorful if the grease had, added it some flavor, right? So of course that's the type of stuff that classic people threw out because it's the grease, right? But it could smell good, especially someone who's hungry. So a princess wants to eat this this flour clumps that originally spread to suck up the grease, right? Tomar yesh lo gnai, lo tomar yesh lo tsar. So what did she do, right? If she actually give me some of that smell, I want to chew on it. Oof, that's a princess. You shouldn't be eating this stuff, right? It's beneath you. But if she doesn't ask for it, she's going to be in great pain, right? Right. So her servants brought it to her secretly. So I guess it was all, brought it to her secretly and presumably just like she asked for it secretly. Like if she whispers it, you get the message. It's supposed to be discreet, right? To save face, and that's why we say Baruch Shem quietly. So if so, why do we say it out loud on Yom Kippur? It's a horrible thing, right? We should be embarrassed that we're saying it, seemingly. Are we proud of it on Yom Kippur? I'm going to talk about this tonight. That's what I'm going to do. I was wondering what I'll speak about, but thanks to you guys, right? I'm going to talk about this. So Mishmar Mimer tonight. It's going to be a little bit late. It's going to be at 10:40. Hope I'll see you all there. Take care.